Snow was falling the way it only does on Christmas Eve, soft as breath, slow as forgiveness. Hollow Creek lay quiet under its white blanket, lanterns glowing in windows like tiny hopeful stars. But out behind old Joe Carver's livery stable, where the cold bit harder and the shadows clung deeper, a young woman worked as though Christmas didn't dare exist for her. Her name was Alara Boone, and the world hadn't been gentle with her in quite a long time. She swept the stable floor with numb hands, each stroke of the broom echoing like a lonely heartbeat. Her breath floated in the frozen air, drifting upward like prayers that had gone unanswered. Folks said Christmas brought miracles. But if you asked Alara, she'd tell you it simply reminded the forgotten that they were still forgotten. She had been abandoned by her husband the winter before, left with nothing but a single trunk, a worn Bible, and a name people whispered with pity and suspicion in the same breath. Bad luck, they called her. A burden on any home. A woman who God must have turned his back on. Hollow Creek was a small place. Gossip traveled faster than horses here. And yet, she kept her head down, taking every job no one else wanted. Scrubbing floors, cleaning stables, washing blankets worn thin. Anything to keep her from starving or begging. Tonight, she'd offered to clean the stable for half pay, just so old Joe wouldn't have to work on Christmas Eve. The horses shifted softly, their warm bodies steaming in the cold. The lantern flickered, throwing gold across the rough wood walls. Alara liked the quiet here. Quiet didn't judge her. Quiet didn't remember what she used to be before her heart was broken. She was brushing mud from a mare's leg when the stable door creaked open. Snow swept in, followed by the heavy sound of boots. She didn't turn right away. Most men who entered this late were drunk or angry, and both had taught her to keep still until she knew which kind she faced. But the voice that came was neither harsh nor slurred. You missed supper. Alara stiffened. Sawyer Kincaid stood just inside the doorway, his coat dusted in snow, his dark hair damp, his expression unreadable. He was the richest rancher in Hollow Creek, owner of more land than a dozen men combined. Folks said he never smiled and rarely spoke, but when he did, people listened. Alara ducked her head, didn't notice. Sawyer nodded toward the broom. Horses look calmer around you. She fumbled for a reply, but found none. Compliments confused her now. They felt like traps. He set a tin cup on the post near her tools. Coffee. Hot. I'm fine, she murmured quickly. You're shivering. I'm fine, she repeated, but her voice trembled. Sawyer didn't push. He simply left the cup and stepped aside, letting silence settle between them like a blanket. Snow kept falling. The lantern hummed. The world felt softer for a moment, until the stable door burst open again. Mayor Harlan Tate stomped in, blowing hot breath and cold insults all at once. I should have known, he snapped. You still here, Boone? Don't you ever take a hint? Alara lowered her eyes. Shame wrapped her like a second cloak. Sawyer's jaw tightened. She's working. She's always lingering near decent folks, Tate spat. If Christmas isn't sacred enough to keep her home, what is? Alara felt her chest collapse inward. Words like his always hit the same old scar. Sawyer took one step forward. His voice was quiet. Dangerous. Mayor, you should leave. Tate's eyes narrowed, but he knew better than to argue with Sawyer Kincaid. He grumbled something foul and stormed back out into the snow. Alara whispered, barely audible, You didn't have to do that. Sawyer turned slightly toward her. Yes, I did. She wasn't used to being defended. It felt like standing too close to fire. Warm, but frightening. He looked at her again, taking in her thin shawl, her raw hands. Why are you working this late? Rent, she murmured. Food. She tucked her trembling hands inside her sleeves. Old Joe said he'd pay me early if I finished tonight. Sawyer nodded, but something in his gaze changed, darkened, softened, both at once. They worked quietly after that. Two silhouettes moving in the dim golden light. Sawyer tightened a loose saddle strap. Alara brushed out the mare's mane. Snow drifted against the windows like powdered moonlight. At one point, a startled horse kicked loose a small beam. Alara didn't notice until Sawyer grabbed her waist and pulled her clear. It wasn't dramatic, just instinct, quick and sure, but it made her breath hitch. She steadied herself. Thank you. He stepped back, respectfully. Anytime. They shared a silence after that, not the awkward kind, but the rare kind where neither heart feels alone. Sawyer broke it first. I don't do much for Christmas anymore. She kept brushing the mare, but listened. My brother died in a blizzard, he said softly. Christmas Eve, years back. Alara looked up slowly. I figured work keeps the ghosts quiet, he finished. She swallowed. Me too. That was all, but it was enough. Sometimes the greatest connection comes from shared sorrow with no need to name it. Old Joe arrived a few minutes later, wiping his nose with a rough handkerchief. Alara, here's your pay. She opened the envelope, thin as a sigh. A few coins clinked inside. Her shoulders sagged, though she tried to hide it. Thank you, Joe. Sorry, girl. Business is slow. Sawyer watched as she closed the envelope with careful fingers. Fingers that shook from cold or hunger or both. She whispered something about skipping supper to make the money last. Something Sawyer Kincaid broke then. Not loudly, but quietly. The way ice cracks under a slow thaw. Alara finished her work, dusting snow from her shawl, before stepping out into the night. She was halfway to the gate when Sawyer caught up to her. Alara. She stopped, snow gathering on her lashes. He stood before her, lantern light behind him, snow swirling in silver spirals around his coat. This life you're living, he said gently. It's not what you deserve. She stiffened, bracing for pity or judgment or worse. But Sawyer wasn't a man of wasted words. I've been expanding my ranch, he continued. I need someone steady, someone who doesn't break under pressure. His eyes were steady. Someone like you. Alara shook her head immediately. People will talk. Let them, he said simply. They've never done half the work you've done. The wind picked up, rattling the stable eaves. Lanterns swayed, but Sawyer didn't move, didn't blink. I want to offer you a job, he said. Full-time. Managing accounts, horses, supplies. You already know the work better than half my men. Alara froze. And I'll give you housing, he added. A warm cabin on the ridge. Double what you earned here. Triple if you need it. Her breath left her. She dreamed of warmth, of safety, of waking without fear of hunger or insults whispered behind her back. But dreams were dangerous things. Why me, she whispered, voice cracking. Sawyer stepped closer. Not close enough to threaten. Just close enough to be heard over the wind. Alara Boone, you deserve a better life. Let me help you build it. Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away, ashamed to let him see. But Sawyer didn't look away. He didn't flinch. He let her cry, because he understood that tears were not weakness. They were release, thaw, the breaking of a long winter inside her. I don't want charity, she said. This isn't charity, he answered softly. This is respect. Snowflakes melted on her cheeks. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell began to ring. She took a breath, a deep, soul-cleansing breath she hadn't felt safe taking in months, maybe years. I'll do it, she whispered. Sawyer nodded once, as though he'd known she would, but had waited for her to know it herself. He helped her onto his wagon, not by lifting her or insisting, but by offering his hand, nothing more. A gesture, a choice, a promise of gentle beginnings. Alara Boone looked back at the stable where her old life had kept her chained. Then she looked forward at the snowy ridge where a new life waited, one built not on gossip or shame, but on earned dignity and quiet hope. Sawyer flicked the reins. The horses moved, and together they rode into the night, two souls who had been cold for far too long warming slowly beside each other. Some stories don't end with fireworks or hymns. Some end with a woman stepping out of the shadows she was thrown into. Some end with a man choosing kindness over silence. Some end on Christmas Eve, with snow falling soft and a heart finally believing it deserves more. And maybe that's the kind of miracle this world still needs. The miracles born from quiet hands, steady eyes, and the courage to accept a life kinder than the one others told you were worth.